Stop calling it patience. Stop disguising weakness as kindness. What you're calling emotional maturity is nothing more than begging in disguise. Not with words, but with behavior. And behavioral begging is far more damaging than verbal desperation, because it doesn't ask for mercy, it announces submission. Begging doesn't erode your power slowly, it exposes you instantly. The second you reveal need, leverage evaporates. The moment desperation leaks into your actions, every advantage collapses at once. Machiavelli warned about this over 5 centuries ago, not in emotional language, not in moral terms, but in strategic ones. He understood something most people still refuse to accept. Power is not about force, it's about opacity. It's about being unreadable. It's about denying others the ability to predict your reactions, your limits, your tolerance. The moment people can anticipate you, they can control you. And right now, you're broadcasting your entire hand before the game even begins. You're defending positions that require no defense. You're explaining decisions that don't require explanation. You're seeking validation from people who should be seeking yours. You're treating your time as infinite when scarcity is the only thing that creates value. That isn't strategy. That's surrender wrapped in politeness. Here's the brutal truth most people never hear. Every time you display need, you train others that your standards are flexible. Every time you over-justify yourself, you signal that your authority is questionable. Every time someone violates your terms without consequence, you confirm that access to you has no real price. And once people internalize that lesson, they never unlearn it. This isn't about becoming heartless. This isn't about isolating yourself or cutting people off randomly. This is about understanding that emotional transparency in the wrong hands becomes a weapon. It's about recognizing that familiarity without consequences breeds contempt. It's about accepting that some people only respect what they fear losing. Machiavelli's principles were never meant for tyrants. They were designed for anyone who refuses to be controlled through their own generosity. If you've ever felt exploited after giving everything, if you've ever been dismissed the moment you stopped overgiving, if you've ever felt mentally drained by people who demand endlessly without contributing, then you already understand why these principles exist. This video will show you how to eliminate emotional exposure, not by shutting down, but by operating with structural discipline, not by cutting everyone off, but by making access to you a privilege that must be continuously earned, not by talking less, but by requiring more through calculated silence. You're about to learn 10 Machiavellian strategies that will permanently alter how people approach you. Apply them consistently, and you'll never plead for respect again. Drop this in the comments before we begin. I stop begging. Number 1, recognize begging as strategic exposure. You need to understand something fundamental. Begging is rarely verbal. Most of the time, it's operational. It's adjusting your schedule to accommodate someone who never adjusts theirs. It's tolerating behavior from familiar people you'd never accept from strangers. It's maintaining access for individuals who consume everything and contribute nothing. That's begging. And it destroys you not because people are cruel, but because human psychology is mechanical. Human nature responds to 3 things: scarcity, uncertainty, and cost. When you are perpetually available, endlessly accommodating, constantly understanding, you become predictable. And predictable equals powerless. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that the instant you need something from someone more than they need it from you, the dynamic inverts, not temporarily, but permanently, because need creates leverage, and leverage determines who controls the interaction. So audit your life ruthlessly. Are you maintaining draining connections because you fear being alone? Are you tolerating boundary violations because you avoid conflict? Are you distributing your time, energy, attention without requiring reciprocity? That isn't generosity. That's strategic exposure. You're revealing your vulnerabilities before others reveal theirs. You're showing what you value before confirming they value you equally. When you beg, behaviorally or emotionally, you eliminate the fear of losing you. And once that fear disappears, respect leaves with it. People don't respect unlimited access. They don't value what costs them nothing. They don't protect what they're certain won't disappear. You think constant availability builds loyalty. What it actually builds is entitlement. You teach people that your boundaries are negotiable, that your time is inexhaustible, that your presence is guaranteed regardless of their conduct. Once that lesson is learned, they stop qualifying themselves for you. They stop investing effort. They stop caring about impact because access is assured. Power collapses the moment you seek instead of position. Seeking requests permission. Positioning creates a framework where others must earn the right to remain. Stop seeking approval. Stop seeking validation. Stop seeking confirmation of your worth. Start positioning yourself as someone whose access carries cost, standards, and potential loss.
Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Stop deceiving yourself with hope. Giving more doesn't create appreciation, it creates expectation, and expectation without reciprocity is exploitation. Recognize begging for what it is, strategic suicide. Drop this in the comments. I position, I never seek. Number 2. Cut familiar access before it breeds entitlement. Familiarity is where respect decays. Observe how people treat strangers, measured, careful, respectful. Why? Because uncertainty exists. But with you, they know exactly what you will tolerate. They've tested your limits, and every time you yielded, they recorded the result. That's familiarity's function. It removes uncertainty. And without uncertainty, there is no incentive to maintain standards. People don't mistreat you because they're evil. They mistreat you because you've made mistreatment safe. You allowed repeated access after violations. You accepted apologies without behavioral change. You preserved proximity without enforcing respect. And now entitlement exists. Entitlement isn't sudden. It's constructed through repeated access without accountability. So remove the access, not through announcements, not through speeches about boundaries, not through emotional explanations. Just stop being available as you were. Respond slower, facilitate less, withdraw convenience. This is critical. Do not confront. Confrontation invites negotiation. Negotiation invites manipulation. Silence removes opportunity. Silence creates a vacuum, and uncertainty returns. They start recalculating. Did I cross a line? Is access still available? Did something permanently change? That uncertainty restores power. Some people will rise to meet the new standard. Keep them. Most won't. They'll accuse you of changing. They'll say you're different. They're right. You stopped participating in your own disrespect. Let them exit. Prevent entitlement by restoring uncertainty. That isn't cruelty. That's structural self-respect. Number 3. Identify the entitlement shift immediately. There is a precise moment every dynamic changes. It's when gratitude disappears. A request becomes an expectation. Can you becomes when will you? That shift is everything. Watch language, watch tone, watch reactions when you're unavailable. Frustration, pressure, guilt, these are signals. Ignore them and exploitation becomes permanent. Machiavelli warned, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. People promise respect when they need you. Once access is secured, promises dissolve. Resistance to your boundaries is not disrespect, it's diagnostic data. Respectful people accept limits. Entitled people fight them. Let them reveal themselves. Drop this affirmation. I recognize entitlement immediately. Number 4. Refuse guilt as a control mechanism. Guilt is deployed when logic fails. You've changed. I thought you cared. After everything I've done. None of these are arguments. They're emotional weapons. The moment you reverse a decision due to guilt, you teach people exactly how to control you. Your no must remain intact. I understand. My answer is still no. Then stop talking. Anything else becomes ammunition. Those who escalate when guilt fails were never adding value, they were extracting it. Boundaries are non-negotiable through consistency, not aggression. Drop this affirmation. Guilt doesn't control me. Number 5. Shut down the just this once breach. Just this once is structural damage. Every exception creates precedent. Every precedent invites repetition. Once someone learns your rules bend, pressure becomes permanent. Boundaries only exist if they're absolute. The moment you permit one breach, the dynamic resets. And control shifts back to them. They make it sound harmless. They frame it as empathy versus res-rigi, as if this single bend is the difference between you being reasonable or cruel. So you bend, just this once. And that's the exact moment you lose. Not because of what you allowed this time, but because of what you communicated about every future interaction. You didn't just grant an exception. You exposed a weakness in your structure. You revealed that your boundaries have pressure points. You demonstrated that persistence works. You showed that your rules are not rules at all, only preferences that dissolve when challenged. That information is never forgotten. Treat exceptions as structural damage, because that's exactly what they are. One crack in a foundation doesn't look dangerous at first. It seems small, manageable, but pressure doesn't stop. That crack spreads. It compromises load-bearing points. And eventually, the entire structure collapses, not suddenly, but inevitably. Eliminate flexibility under pressure.
This doesn't mean you can't ever adjust your boundaries. It means you don't adjust them while someone is actively pushing you to do so. If you make an exception, it must come from your own deliberate assessment, when you're calm, detached, and clear-minded, not in the heat of emotional pressure, not in response to guilt, urgency, or manipulation. Decisions made under pressure aren't decisions. They're surrenders.
Machiavelli understood this perfectly when he said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." You cannot command respect if your authority collapses the moment it's resisted. You cannot maintain order if your standards only exist when others agree with them. You cannot protect your peace if you allow people to negotiate with it. One bend creates permanent leverage against you. The person who extracted one exception will reference it forever. But you did it last time. You made an exception for them. I thought we had that kind of understanding. That single moment of flexibility becomes justification for permanent access to flexibility. And from that point forward, you're no longer enforcing a boundary. You're defending it, explaining it, arguing for it, trying to reclaim ground you should never have surrendered. Here's what you do instead. When someone asks for just this once, your answer is simple. No, not even this once. When they promise it won't happen again, your answer is, then you'll understand why I can't make this exception. When they accuse you of being inflexible, your answer is, yes, I am. Deliberately. Don't soften it. Don't apologize for it. Don't explain why the boundary exists. The boundary is the message. Your consistency is the enforcement. Some people will respect this immediately. They'll recognize that your structure is real. They'll adjust their behavior accordingly. Others will become angry. They'll accuse you of being cold. They'll claim you don't care. And in doing so, they'll prove exactly why the boundary was necessary. Shut down the just this once breach immediately, because there is no such thing as just this once. There is only the first compromise that makes every future compromise inevitable. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My boundaries have no exceptions. Number 6. Operate cold-blooded, not cruel. Let's be precise. Cold-blooded does not mean heartless. It does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become hostile or abusive. Cold-blooded means calculated. It means your emotions no longer override your strategy. It means you maintain awareness and control even when someone is attempting to provoke you into losing both. Most people confuse emotional control with emotional absence. They think being cold-blooded means killing your feelings. That's incorrect. Your feelings still exist. They just don't get to make decisions. Maintain awareness without hostility. You don't need to call people out. You don't need to explain what they did wrong. You don't need to prove you noticed the disrespect. You simply adjust your response. This is where most people fail. Someone disrespects them, and they react instantly. Anger, defensiveness, explanation. That reaction hands over control. It proves the other person can affect you. And once someone knows how to affect you, they know how to control you. Stay measured. If someone says something designed to provoke you, don't give them the reaction they're fishing for. Respond calmly or don't respond at all. Let your restraint communicate everything. Remove predictability by limiting emotional access. When people can predict your reactions, they plan around them. They know which buttons to push. They know which apologies work. They know how to regain access after disrespecting you. Break that pattern. Stop being emotionally transparent with people who haven't earned it. Stop explaining your inner world to people who weaponize it. Stop giving people the blueprint to your vulnerabilities. This doesn't make you robotic. It makes you selective. Reserve emotional transparency for those who've proven they'll protect it, not exploit it. Here's the difference. Cruelty seeks to harm. Cold-blooded discipline refuses to be harmed. Cruelty is active destruction. Cold-blooded control is strategic protection. You're not trying to hurt anyone. You're preventing others from hurting you. You're not cutting people off out of malice. You're removing access from people who've demonstrated they can't handle it responsibly. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation executed with discipline. Most people will misunderstand this. They'll say you've changed. They'll interpret your control as indifference. Let them. Their misunderstanding is not your responsibility to correct. Your responsibility is to protect your peace. Drop this affirmation. I am calculated, never cruel. Number 7. Use silence as containment, not escape.
Silence is the most powerful response you possess, and most people misuse it. They break silence because they're uncomfortable. They fill the void with explanations, justifications, oversharing. They fear silence makes them look weak or guilty. So they talk themselves into submission. People are forced to confront their own interpretation. When you stop correcting assumptions, they must examine their own behavior. When you stop filling the space with words, the space itself becomes the message. Stop explaining.
Every explanation you give to someone who doesn't respect you becomes information they'll later weaponize. You teach them which arguments work, which guilt tactics land, which narratives manipulate you. Silence removes bad advantage. Stop correcting perceptions. People will invent stories about your silence. They'll project guilt. They'll assume motives. Let them. As Machiavelli said, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Let them see what they want to see. If they interpret your silence as punishment, it reveals guilt. If they interpret it as indifference, it reveals how little they valued you. Silence forces recalibration. When you withdraw after disrespect, you create uncertainty. That uncertainty creates anxiety, and anxiety drives reflection, not your explanations. People will start apologizing for things you never mentioned, promising changes you never demanded, exposing themselves, trying to regain access. That's containment. You're not avoiding confrontation, you're forcing self-confrontation. Silence isn't surrender, it's controlled pressure. Drop this affirmation. My silence speaks volumes. Number 8, enforce consequences, not conditions. Most people don't have boundaries. They have warnings they never enforce. If you do that again, I'm done. But they're never done. If this happens one more time, it always happens one more time. That's why no one takes them seriously. Stop announcing consequences. Stop threatening. Stop explaining what will happen. Just act. When the line is crossed, remove access. When generosity is abused, withdraw it. When trust is violated, end proximity. No warning, no negotiation, no discussion. Consequences don't speak. They happen. The moment you warn someone, you invite negotiation, apologies, excuses, promises. And if you're not disciplined, you'll soften. Structure eliminates negotiation. When responses are emotional, people manipulate emotion. When responses are structural, there's nothing to argue with. They violated the structure. The structure responded. End of discussion. That's power.
That's it. No negotiation, no discussion about intent, no debate about fairness. The behavior triggered the consequence, and the consequence stands. This approach feels harsh only to those who are addicted to infinite forgiveness. But here's the reality most people refuse to face. People do not change because of explanations. They change because behavior has consequences. And when disrespect carries no cost, there is absolutely no incentive for it to stop. Enforce consequences, not conditions. Make your boundaries self-executing. Disrespect automatically results in reduced access. Betrayal automatically results in removal. No announcements, no warnings, no emotional speeches. Just action. Let your behavior teach the lesson your words never could. Number 9. Convert humiliation into strategic intelligence. Disrespect hurts. Pretending otherwise is dishonest. When someone dismisses you, betrays you, or humiliates you, the first response is always emotional. Anger, shame, the urge to retaliate or disappear. That reaction is human. But Machiavelli would tell you something most people never learn. Raw emotion is wasted energy. The violation already occurred. The damage is done. Your feelings won't undo it. What can change is what you do with the information. Stop personalizing disrespect. Most people interpret mistreatment as a judgment of their value. What did I do wrong? Why don't they respect me? Am I not enough? That's the wrong lens. Disrespect is not a verdict on your worth. It's data about their character. It reveals how they operate when they believe there are no consequences. It exposes their priorities, their ethics, and how they view power dynamics. That information is invaluable if you know how to use it. Extract intelligence, not emotion. Ask better questions. What does this reveal about how they see me? What does it show about how they treat people when unrestrained? What role do they believe they deserve in my life? Machiavelli wrote, "Men ought either to be well treated or crushed because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries." What he meant was not cruelty, it was finality. If someone demonstrates they are willing to harm you, your response must remove their ability to do so again. Half measures invite repetition. Do not react emotionally. Do not confront theatrically. Do not explain how you were hurt. Adjust access, quietly, systematically, permanently. They don't need to understand why. They just need to feel the change. Here's the strategic advantage.
When you personalize disrespect, you chase validation from someone who already disqualified themselves. When you convert it into intelligence, you make decisions from clarity. Someone proves they're untrustworthy. That's not a flaw in you. That's information about their capacity. Reduce access accordingly. Someone repeatedly violates boundaries. That's not sensitivity on your part. That's contempt on theirs. Remove them from positions where damage is possible. Someone humiliates you publicly. That's not about your weakness. That's about their need to dominate. Eliminate access entirely. This is not revenge. It's precision. You are aligning investment with demonstrated behavior, nothing more. This is the Machiavelli shift, from victim to strategist, from emotional reaction to structural adjustment, from pain to power. Drop this affirmation. Disrespect informs my decisions. Number 10. Live structurally cold-blooded. Everything in this video reduces to one principle: structure over emotion. Living structurally cold-blooded means you don't decide based on how you feel today. You decide based on what people have consistently proven over time. You don't grant access because of history. You don't grant access because of potential. You grant access because of current conduct. Require requalification. Just because someone once had access doesn't mean they retain it forever. Access is not permanent. It is conditional on sustained respect. If someone abused proximity, they don't regain it because time passed. They don't regain it because they apologized. They regain it only through observable, consistent behavioral reform. Demand reform before forgiveness. Forgiveness without reform is permission for repetition. Words mean nothing. Patterns mean everything. If someone disrespects you, apologizes, improves briefly, and repeats the behavior, that pattern will continue until you end it. End it by refusing apologies as currency. Require evidence. If they can't meet that standard, they don't deserve access. Period.
Protect peace as a strategic asset. Peace is not the absence of conflict. That's temporary. Real peace is structural. It's what exists when your environment no longer contains people who exploit you. Your peace is your most valuable resource. Without it, you cannot think clearly, decide accurately, or operate from strength. Anyone who threatens it through entitlement, manipulation, or disrespect must be removed immediately. Living structurally cold-blooded means principles over feelings, standards over excuses, peace over approval. Structure isn't cruel. It's honest. It filters out those who drain you. It blocks exploitation automatically. It eliminates self-doubt rooted in external validation. This is Machiavellian discipline, not domination, but non-submission. Power isn't controlling others. It's being structurally immune to manipulation. It's protecting your inner order so thoroughly that disrespect cannot penetrate it. Cold-blooded control isn't heartlessness. It's guardianship. Caring deeply for the right people. Being indifferent to those who've proven they don't deserve access. That is the shift, from begging to commanding, from explaining to enforcing, from emotional exposure to strategic opacity. Drop this affirmation. I protect peace through structure. Stop begging. Stop begging through availability. Stop begging through explanations. Stop begging through tolerated violations. Because every time you beg, you remove the fear of losing you, and without that fear, respect cannot exist. Contain access. Enforce structure. Withdraw without explanation. Let silence and distance do what words never could. This is self-command without emotion. This is discipline without apology. This is Machiavellian control. Stop begging. Start commanding.